My husband caught me in the act with another man, and that caused a big reaction. Now he's serving a 5-year jail sentence, and my whole family is angry with me. I've destroyed what used to be a perfect family. I can't help but feel like a selfish person, and I keep telling myself that every night when I'm alone in my silent home. My children are not living with me, and my ex-husband has good reasons to hate me. My immediate family is divided, and I can't stop hating myself for my actions back in 2015. I recently turned 39, and have to admit that I took my ex-husband for granted. My ex always told me I was beautiful, wanted to be close, took care of me, and treated me as an equal, not like a queen or princess. We were high school sweethearts and each other's one and only, and it felt right. My family loved him, especially my brother who looked up to him. My ex was a good man and always helped people in trouble. We were married for 20 years by then and had 2 headstrong boys together. At that time, our daughters were in their teenage years and I gained weight, which made me feel self-conscious. However, my ex-husband still thought I was beautiful and we rarely argued, but when we did, it usually revolved around closeness and my unwillingness to try certain things in bed, even though I wanted to. I just wasn't feeling it, you know? And he got that. When I turned 39, my birthday party was all about showing off the new me. I had been hitting the gym doing yoga and Pilates all year long. I worked hard and went from weighing 180 pounds to a fantastic 135 pounds. It was a total transformation for me. I used to be a bit on the chubby side, so having a tight and fit body was totally new and exciting. My ex-husband also joined me at the gym, but he wasn't as dedicated as I was. He managed to drop from 260 to 225 pounds and started shaping up too. He couldn't keep his hands off me, but for some reason, I just wasn't in the mood for closeness. It's not like he didn't try though. We went on dates, danced together, and took regular walks. He was helpful around the house, and I could tell he still loved and desired me after 20 years together. Any woman would be thrilled to have that kind of attention, but mentally, I wasn't feeling it at that time. I thought maybe I was going through early menopause because we only had closeness a couple of times a month, and once I was satisfied, I was done. But he wanted more, and no matter how hard he tried, I just wasn't interested. So, my ex-husband suggested couple counseling, but I turned it down, showing my selfishness. Soon after my birthday, a younger and attractive new manager joined my office, and he seemed interested in me for some reason. At first, I ignored him, but then we started chatting casually. Eventually, he started flirting, but I showed him my wedding ring. However, after 2 months of continuous flirting, I started flirting back, sharing details about my life, and couldn't stop thinking about him. Looking back, I realize it was an emotional affair, but at that time, I was caught up in the excitement. My ex-husband sensed that something was off with me, and we had a heated argument about it, which I believe I started. During the argument, he tried to kiss me, but I unconsciously looked disgusted because I was thinking about the other man. A week later, I met the new manager at a cafe, planning to tell him to back off and end things. But before I could say anything, he kissed me, and my mind went blank. That marked the start of our 6-month affair, during which I did things with him that my ex-husband had wanted from me. I was much more excited and willing to be close with someone else. It felt like the newness of the situation made me always want to be in the mood. Even though my ex and I still had closeness, it wasn't as frequent. I started pushing him away and finding fault with small things, and I even treated him poorly. Looking back, I'm ashamed of how I acted during that time. It wasn't until my brother visited me and revealed that my ex had confided in him about feeling depressed and considering separation because he thought I didn't love him anymore. That woke me up, and I realized I needed to change. I immediately ended the affair, quit my job, and decided to make my husband feel loved and wanted again. I was determined to be a better wife. Then, my affair partner came to my house with a box of things from my office, and we talked. He wanted to know what he did wrong, but I told him I needed to fix my marriage. I asked him to leave, but he insisted on one last time together, and foolishly, I agreed. We ended up in the bedroom together. I'm not sure how long we were doing it, but when he was on top of me, something suddenly pulled him back aggressively, and there was a loud bang. I sat up and saw my ex looking at me, while my affair partner was on the floor with a hole in the wall. I tried to talk to my ex, but his eyes were red and teary, and his lips were trembling with pain. It made me feel disgusted. My affair partner tried to leave, but my ex warned him to stay back. Then my ex attacked him, and I screamed and cried, begging my ex to stop. I got desperate and jumped on my ex's back, but it only resulted in me getting slammed to the floor. Everything got blurry for a moment, and words sounded muffled. When I came to, my ex had my affair partner on his side, and was on the phone. I couldn't do anything but stare at my affair partner's swollen face and the blood and teeth on the floor. Then there was a loud bang on the door, and my ex put the phone on speaker, slowly got on his knees, and put his hands on the back of his head. The door swung open, and the police barged in, handcuffing him while paramedics rushed in shortly after. I later found out he had called 911 on himself. Things went downhill fast at the hospital. My father didn't say a word, just looked at me with shame. My brother was furious, crushed, asking how I could do that to my ex. Mom tried to console me, but Dad snapped at her. His family was livid, and his sisters threatened me while his parents seemed ready to bury me alive. When I tried talking to my children, they refused to even acknowledge me. My sons couldn't bear to look at me. My affair partner was seriously hurt and needed reconstructive surgery for his face, thanks to my ex's rage. While at the hospital, a woman attacked me, and my brother had to pull her away. Turned out, she was my affair partner's wife, and I had no idea he was married. He never wore a ring or mentioned it, which made me feel even worse. As the trial approached, my boys stayed with their grandparents on my husband's side, and my girls wouldn't talk to me. My ex didn't want to see me either. I tried to visit him at the county jail, but they wouldn't let me in. So my brother made sure my ex was transferred to the correctional facility where he worked, keeping an eye on him. When I asked my brother to pass on a message for me during the trial, he lashed out and told me to go to hell. It had been 3 months since I last saw him, and the anger in his eyes hurt more than anything I could have imagined. He had always looked at me with love, even when we were mad at each other, but during the trial, it was pure hatred. I had to excuse myself and cry in the restroom. As the days passed, I had to painfully recount every detail of my affair for everyone to hear. When I mentioned how long it had been going on, my ex looked crushed, and my father couldn't bear it, so he walked out of the courtroom. During my ex's testimony, I learned that he had planned a surprise lunch and a romantic weekend getaway for us to the Catskills. But instead, he walked in on us, and his reaction was fierce. The affair partner told him to step aside, and my ex couldn't control his anger, resulting in him beating the affair partner until he stopped and pushed me away. He immediately called 911, and we heard the recording in court. Hearing the pain in his voice, his sobs as he followed the operator's instructions, crushed my soul. The affair partner couldn't testify verbally due to heavy medication, so they used images of his injuries, and it made me sick to my stomach, knowing I was responsible for all of this. My ex severely injured his eye socket, cheekbones, and jaw. The doctor said there were small bone fragments that couldn't be put back together. He got charged with a third-degree felony and got a 7-year sentence. My sons protested loudly, and my daughters and his family let out a heartbreaking cry that still haunts me. The first 3 months were absolute torture. My soon-to-be ex-wife sued me for alienation of affection. My ex filed for divorce. My eldest moved out. One son stayed locked in his room, and my twins were rebelling big time. My former sister-in-law even attacked me at Price Chopper. When I tried to apologize to his mother, she spat in my face. My father and brother wouldn't even talk to me. I had to find a new job because there was no money coming in, and I almost depleted my savings. But I was pretty much blacklisted in my field due to the bad publicity from the affair. So, I ended up working in retail and as a seasonal H&R Block adjuster during the tax rush. Things got so tough that I almost lost the house. My ex refused any visitation from me, and he returned every letter I sent. I found myself crying in the shower almost every day. The situation strained my parents' relationship, as my mother constantly defended me. My brother completely ignored me, and even my friends from grade school were split over the situation. I started having thoughts of disappearing and leaving everything behind because the guilt was overwhelming. Eventually, I sought help from a therapist, and she scolded me, saying that I had gotten too comfortable with my ex. Instead of seeing him as a husband, I treated him like a friend with benefits. She was right. I took him for granted and saw him more as a companion than a spouse. But he saw me as his wife, the mother of his children, the woman he loved and desired. Almost a year passed, and my children didn't say a word to me. When I cooked dinner, they'd grab their food and retreat to their rooms without even looking at me. I had a few meltdowns begging them to talk to me, but it was useless. My brother got married, and I wasn't invited, although my kids were. I kept trying to visit my ex, hoping he'd put me on the visitor list, but I was always denied. My letters to him kept coming back, and it made me feel deeply depressed. I knew I deserved it. Then, out of the blue, my brother showed up at my house. I was surprised and happy to see him, but he came just to scold me and inform me that my ex was in the infirmary after being stabbed. In his cell, an inmate attempted to offend my ex, which led to my ex getting stabbed in the stomach and the inmate breaking his spine. My brother was furious at me, telling me that I had caused all of this before storming off to his truck. I cried for days because deep down, I knew he was right. I was to blame. I kept trying to visit my ex in the infirmary, but for 4 more years, I was denied access. I tried talking to him and wrote letters, but they were all returned. Luckily, our children visited their father often, and that's how I found out my brother had put him in protective custody after the attack. Over the years, my eldest followed in his father's footsteps, going to the same college and taking the same major. He only calls his siblings and never wants to talk to me. He also only goes to his grandparents' house for holidays, avoiding mine. My other son did the same, going to the same college and not calling me either. My twins were tough on me, but they still visited their father weekly, which seemed to improve their mood. And when they got too rebellious, their uncle put them in their place. But even with all this, my brother and I barely spoke. I tried to visit his wife when they had their first child, but I was asked to leave. My mother kept me updated on what was happening in their lives, so at least I knew what was going on with them. My father still wouldn't acknowledge me. Then, in early May of this year, my kids seemed happy, and my sons came back home. I didn't know why, and I didn't care. I was just glad to have them around again after months of them avoiding me. I did everything I could to show them how sorry I was, but most of the time, they ignored me. However, they started talking to me, and that made me really happy. It felt great to have conversations with them and know what was happening in their lives. I found out my eldest was dating a woman for over a year, and my second-born was on a college track team. Even my girls started talking to me again, but it made me hate myself even more for what I had done to them. It was heartwarming to see them smiling, joking, and having dinner together again. I miss those moments so much. Towards the end of August, I was getting ready for the twins' first day of their senior year, which also happened to be their 18th birthday. I was excited about their birthday party and shared my plans with them. But then, my girls asked if we could have the party on a different day. I was confused because I thought things were getting better between us. When I asked why, one of them said, "Because Dad is throwing us a party, and I don't want you near him." That comment shocked me. I asked when their father was released, and they told me he got out at the end of April due to good behavior. I cried when I found out he was out, and it broke me even more. They were around more because he was back in their lives. They were happier and cheerful, not necessarily because we were healing, but because they had their father back. I asked where he was staying, and they said he was with my brother. I tried calling him, needing to talk, but he refused. I went over to my brother's place, holding all the letters he had returned over the years. I caught a brief glimpse of him through the door crack, shouted his name, but my brother asked me to leave. I handed him the letters and left. As I reached the driveway, I heard his voice. I turned around, and he walked towards me. I instantly started crying, went to hug him, and he handed me back the letters, coldly saying, "You forgot this?" I cried even more as I watched him walk away. I begged and pleaded for him to talk to me, but he just went back into the house. My children were standing by the door, looking at me without love in their eyes. That moment made me realize that my children were just tolerating me. Still, I want to fix things. I want to tell him how selfish I was and how much I missed him. I want to tell him I'm really sorry for ruining our relationship. I'm still trying to get through each day, despite everything. I found out from my mother that my ex-wife visited my ex 2 years ago and has been coming around to see him. I don't really care about that. I just want him to forgive me somehow. I want him to talk to me, be with me, and look at me the way he used to. I want our kids to be with us too. I just want my family back. But I know I don't deserve it. Even if by some miracle we get back together, it won't be the same. I was selfish, and I wish I could undo it all. Second story. Recently, I discovered that my ex had a flirty relationship with one of her managers at the restaurant where she works. They engaged in dirty talk while on shift, exchanged explicit compliments and photos, and even made plans to hang out. When I found out, I confronted her and asked her to stop texting the other guy and block him. However, when I checked her phone again, I realized she hadn't stopped. In less than a day, she responded to his texts on iMessage, continuing the cheating. What hurt even more was how she described getting caught by me as funny and amusing. She made me feel like a doormat, a joke, just an option for her to play around with. It seemed like everything we had together was nothing more than a toy for her to toy with. Feeling humiliated, ashamed, and shocked that she could talk about me like this to another man, I decided to take action. I posted incriminating screenshots of her conversations on her social media accounts, Instagram and Snapchat stories, because I had access to them. I also sent those screenshots to the guy she was cheating with and her boss at work, since he was another manager at the restaurant. Additionally, I sent them to her mother because she was texting this guy while I was helping her mother move to her new home. The guy responded immediately, but her boss and mother haven't replied yet. Later, she called me to apologize for the situation, but the damage was already done, and I told her about what I did to get back at her. Looking back, I think I went too far, as this kind of revenge is something I've never done before. I updated the situation, saying that her boss has seen the message I sent about her cheating at work with another restaurant manager. The boss hasn't replied yet, but now she knows what happened. Only time will tell if she'll continue working there. It seems she still has her job at the restaurant, and she's trying to manage the fallout from the social media posts. She replied to me, informing me about the developments I had previously posted about, and she made hurtful comments. The conversation turned into an ugly exchange of insults. The damage has been done, and I realize I'm acting out of spite. I've decided to stop talking to her. I plan to seek therapy and work on improving myself. I didn't expect things to escalate like this, but I appreciate all the advice I received. She never truly wanted or deserved me. I reached out to the owner and presented him with pictures of what had happened. However, he legally stated that he couldn't get involved in situations that occurred outside the restaurant, even though the screenshots clearly showed her and the manager engaging in flirting during work hours. I don't think he genuinely wants to get involved. Since we live in an at-will employment state, the employer can fire someone for any reason that isn't illegal. So, despite the discomfort it may cause for her, the owner, the general manager, and the manager she cheated with, unfortunately, she will likely keep her job. However, working there will probably be quite uncomfortable for her. Update. The guy my ex cheated on me with is a single father, co-parenting a son with another woman. I found out who the woman was and showed her all the screenshots. Unfortunately, she had seen their texts over a year ago, and she told him to stop texting her because she didn't want him hanging out with someone who didn't like the mother of their son. My ex-girlfriend knew this woman and treated her with rudeness and snobbishness. They are not together anymore, so she didn't know the exact duration of their relationship, but she knew they exchanged many texts. Surprisingly, their relationship ended too, because he was cheating on her with another woman from the same restaurant when their son was very young. It's ironic that my ex talked about not wanting to be a single mother and despising her father for cheating on her mother while she was pregnant, yet she was willing to play the role of the other woman. Third story. I was born in India. When I was 10 years old, my dad got a job in a small country town in Australia, and we moved there. It was tough because I was small, overweight, had a different skin color, spoke with an accent, and didn't understand the culture. Some crazy kids at school bullied me, and life was difficult. Fortunately, I worked hard and maintained good grades, which led me to receive a scholarship for studying science at a major university in a big city. On my first day of university tutorials, I noticed a shy and awkward-looking chubby Indian girl sitting alone. Her name was Ronnie, and she also came from a rural town. She had recently moved up here with her second cousins. We quickly connected over our shared experiences of how difficult high school was and how nice it felt to be in a diverse city. We discovered that we had many common interests and ended up joining the same university clubs and societies, such as video games, board games, Indian cultural clubs, and ballroom dancing. After spending time together for about a month, I mustered up the courage to ask her out. She was the first girl I ever asked, and to my delight, she said yes. We kept our relationship a secret and became each other's first everything, including our first kiss, love, and official partner. After a year of secretly dating, she moved into my apartment, and life was incredible. We never argued, had zero problems, shared similar hobbies and friends, were constantly attracted to each other, and felt love every day. It was like a perfect fairy tale, just two lovebirds building a life together. After dating secretly for 2 years, we decided to introduce each other to our families. My parents are conservative Muslims, but they were okay with me dating around, especially since I had chosen an Indian girl they could relate to. On the other hand, her parents were initially harsh and aggressive, but when they met me, they quickly grew fond of me. The only problem was that they wanted us to get married right away. Ronnie and I had already discussed our plans. We both wanted to pursue medical school after completing our bachelor's degrees. We also desired a family and a stable life, but we had decided to wait until after medical school to start that chapter. However, after meeting her parents and some soul searching, I changed my mind and decided to accelerate the plan. I planned to propose to her for marriage in 2 years, after we finished our bachelor's degrees. We would get married during the 5-month break after university, travel a bit, enjoy a honeymoon, and then begin medical school together as a married couple. During this time, I also decided to work on myself by losing excess weight and becoming the attractive groom she deserves. Both she and I were overweight, but our weight didn't bother us, and we found each other attractive regardless. Nevertheless, I wanted to improve myself and become the attractive man she deserves to be with. Ronnie initially supported my weight loss journey. She liked the new me, the increased energy and confidence I had gained. After a year, I had lost 30 kgs and reached my ideal body weight. I started working out and building muscle mass. However, as I transformed, Ronnie became more insecure about herself. I constantly reassured her that her weight wasn't an issue for me, but we began having more fights. She was annoyed that I cooked my meals and didn't eat out with her as much. I spent a lot of time at the gym and she felt I was too attractive for her. I kept reassuring her, but things only seemed to get worse. With 1 year to go before graduation, I discussed my plan with Ronnie's father. I asked for his consent to marry Ronnie with the understanding that we would get married after graduation to avoid wedding stress while preparing for medical school. He happily agreed. 8 months before graduation, Ronnie started acting distant and strange. I sensed something was wrong, initially attributing it to the stress of med school exams and coursework. However, after 2 weeks of coldness, I discovered a suspicious messenger message on her laptop from another guy. Ronnie had this friend who resembled the dumb, overweight brother from the show My Name is Earl. He was socially awkward, annoying, and lacked cultural awareness. He was overweight and had a persistent bad body odor. He was part of the same clubs as us, including board games, video games, and anime. While going through Ronnie's Skype messages, I discovered that she had been complaining to him about our relationship for the past year. Earl Bro had expressed his love for her a few times, but she turned him down. 2 weeks ago, Ronnie and Earl Bro must have cheated on me. Earl Bro wanted Ronnie to break up with me, but she was saying it was a mistake and asked him to be quiet about it. I was furious when I found out, so I immediately packed my things and printed out the messages as evidence. I informed my landlord that I wouldn't be renewing my lease. I texted Ronnie that I knew about her betrayal, and we were through. I quickly moved most of my belongings, though I didn't have much since most of our stuff was hers, to a friend's house and asked my friends to protect me from Ronnie. Well, Ronnie discovered what happened and became extremely angry. It seems she rushed home and noticed that my belongings were gone. She went to our mutual friend's house and broke down crying. She attempted to contact me, but my friends deleted all her messages and so on. She claimed that her involvement with Earl Bro was a drunken mistake and insisted that she never meant to hurt me. According to her, the reason she cheated was because she thought I was getting fit to find a better girlfriend an upgrade from her, which is ridiculous. She asked if we could meet again for another chance or closure and so on. However, I made up my mind to never speak to her again, and I have successfully stuck to that decision. Ronnie's dad started bombarding my phone with calls a day after I broke up with Ronnie. He aggressively demanded an explanation for why I broke her heart. Her two older brothers also called and made threats, but I chose not to respond to their voicemails. Instead, I decided to send a lengthy email to both Ronnie and my parents. In the email, I poured my heart out, explaining how I had envisioned marrying Ronnie, but she had cheated. I included screenshots of her messages as evidence. I also apologized for causing a scene and for potentially affecting our family's reputation, as family status is significant in Indian culture. I expressed my need for space so that I could focus on preparing for medical school. Within an hour of sending the email, Ronnie's dad called me, expressing deep remorse. He said Ronnie was very sorry and that her actions were a mistake. He even offered to come and beg for forgiveness, and surprisingly, he also offered me money. I accepted his apology, but I made it clear that I didn't want any further contact with Ronnie or her family. I wished them all the best. A week later, Ronnie's family came down to our city. They took her back to their hometown and withdrew her from her courses. As a result, she couldn't graduate on time or apply for medical school. She returned 1 year later to complete her course, but unfortunately, she failed. Subsequently, she spent a year living at home and remained unemployed before finally finding a retail job. During this time, she gained a significant amount of weight, and her appearance changed dramatically. News of Ronnie's cheating spread within the Indian community, leading to her family being ostracized. Now, Ronnie is dealing with severe depression, and her family resents her for tarnishing their reputation within the Indian community. I left for med school in another state, and I got in touch with several Indian parents who wanted me to tutor their kids. One girl I tutored, Amina, amazed me. She was studying science and aspired to become a doctor. She was not only physically attractive but also had a beautiful personality. Her smile could brighten up any room, and most importantly, she had a kind and caring soul. She actively participated in her community and volunteered not just to enhance her chances of getting into med school, but because she genuinely cared about helping others. After tutoring her for a year, I realized I was in love with her. I mustered the courage to ask her out, but she declined. Amina admitted that she liked me too, but she was religious and preferred an arranged marriage according to Islamic law. Although we weren't officially dating, I knew she was the girl of my dreams, so I talked to my parents about her. Our parents then arranged our marriage, with the understanding that we would be engaged for 2 years until we both completed our respective programs. During this time, we started dating as fiancés, which may seem a bit unconventional. Years ago, Ronnie and I created a bucket list of romantic activities we planned to do as a couple. Amina discovered the list, and after discussing it with her, she liked the idea and wanted us to complete the activities with some changes. Our goal was to finish the list before our wedding. As we completed each activity, Amina took photos and made a scrapbook to preserve our memories, such as hiking a mountain, salsa dancing, visiting the Great Barrier Reef, Rome, Paris, etc. A few months before our scheduled wedding, Amina shared our scrapbook on Facebook. Unfortunately, Ronnie somehow found access to it and sent Amina a harsh message, accusing her of stealing her idea. In response, Amina fired back with a fierce message defending herself and expressing how terrible Ronnie was. The whole situation escalated, and it seems the news of my upcoming wedding pushed Ronnie to the brink. She made threats about taking her own life, and as a result, she had to spend 3 weeks in a mental health ward. This incident caused a major scandal within our Indian community, and it happened 3 years ago. I have been married to Amina for 2 years now, and everything has been wonderful. She is currently in med school, and I am working as a junior doctor. We are now trying to have a baby. Last Sunday, my father received a call from one of his friends in another city who was arranging a marriage for his son. Ronnie's parents had proposed a match, and they contacted my dad to gather some information about Ronnie before introducing her to their son. My dad forwarded the initial email I wrote to this person and then called him to share Ronnie's story of cheating, dropping out of university, and dealing with depression. As a result, the guy quickly changed his mind and canceled the arranged marriage. He was grateful for my dad's advice and promised to warn others in his community about Ronnie's past. In the end, I didn't even have to confront Ronnie to seek revenge. Karma took care of it all, delivering justice on a silver platter. I now have a beautiful wife and a job I enjoy, while Ronnie's life is filled with misery and self-destruction. It all began with my desire to lose weight before proposing to her, and though it might not be considered pro-revenge, I find some satisfaction in the outcome. Perhaps those who are struggling with love might find some comfort or joy in reading this and seeing karma at work. I'm just passing on the message of karma. I've been looking after my younger brother, Justin, 33M, since he was 10. Our parents passed away when I was only 16, so I had to step up and take care of the household while he was still little. I did everything for him, and he meant the world to me. Maybe I spoiled him a bit too much. Because of my responsibilities, I didn't date much until I met Melissa, 35F, about 10 years ago. We dated for 2 years, and it was great. My brother really liked her too. One day, I overheard a conversation Melissa was having with her friend. She was talking about me, saying she loves how I take care of her in every way, but she found me average in bed. Her friend asked her if she is going to talk to me about it, or how is she happy. She told her that her fixture is my brother. Then, she spilled the tea. She had been having an affair with Justin for the past 8 months. She justified it by saying she thinks Justin is better in bed than I am. It was incredibly painful to hear. I tried to act like I hadn't heard anything and went inside the house. So I confronted Justin about the whole thing. I know how to get him to talk. After he kept denying it, I pushed him hard on the matter. Finally, he couldn't hold it in anymore and admitted it was true. He stayed quiet to avoid hurting me. He's in love with Melissa and wants to marry her, but she won't leave me alone. I was beyond furious. I wanted to punch him in the face, but instead, I just told him he's dead to me and walked away. I threw Melissa out too, and she ended up crashing with my brother and his roommates. My brother kept banging on my door non-stop. It got so bad that I had to move in with a friend, and I made sure nobody told my brothers where I was. His calls and emails were all the same, that he was sorry, and he never wanted to hurt me and he will break up. I stopped the bank account I had set up for him, like a trust fund he could access when he turned 25. At that point, he wasn't my brother anymore. I fell into a deep depression. My eating and sleeping habits went all haywire. Every night I'd have nightmares of my brother and ex laughing at me, saying I was terrible in bed. They made it seem like if I had been better, she wouldn't have left me. Things got so bad that at one point, I found myself standing in front of a train track, feeling like I couldn't handle it anymore. Luckily, my few friends came to my rescue. They were my lifeline during that tough time, and I stayed with them for a whole year. I decided to seek help and went to therapy, attending group sessions too. Closeness became a big anxiety trigger for me, so I avoided dating for a long while. But my friend encouraged me to give it a shot, and I did try once with a one-night stand, but it didn't work out well for either of us. Even now I continue with therapy, but I'm happy to say that other areas of my life have improved. I started focusing on building new relationships with different people. I took the opportunity to travel and explore new hobbies. Most importantly, I learned to live for myself and put my well-being first. I've been with someone for 3 years now, and we're engaged and expecting a child together. Wendy, 32F, is a really sweet person. She knows all about my insecurities and the issues my brother caused me. She's been really mature and patient with me, and because of her, I've been able to trust someone enough to be in a relationship. A couple of days ago I received a wedding invitation in the mail, and guess who it's from? Yep, my brother. He's been keeping an eye on me from a distance and invited me to his wedding with none other than Melissa. Seeing their names together doesn't hurt as much now, but I feel kind of numb about the whole thing. If this had happened 8 years ago, I would have had a complete breakdown. I still feel this pain inside that I can't be happy for my brother on his big day. My fiancé suggests that we shouldn't go to the wedding and just delete the invitation. You know what? I just want to see them suffer. I don't have any love or blessings left for my brother. When our parents passed away, they entrusted me with taking care of him, and they said we'd look out for each other when we grew up. But he completely threw that away. It's not just the fact that Melissa cheated that hurts, it's more painful that my own brother betrayed me. Update. Hey guys! I've been thinking about giving you all an update soon. You know how much people on Reddit love updates, but I had to delay it because I have a baby girl now. When I made the original post, my fiance, now wife, was already 8.5 months pregnant, and we ended up having an early delivery. Our baby girl, Emily, is just the cutest little thing, bringing so much joy to both of us. She's so tiny and adorable, and she's got eyes just like mine. It's unbelievable how we created something so precious. I can't get enough of holding her, and my wife gets a little annoyed sometimes because she thinks I might spoil her too much. Oh, and by the way, my fiance and I got married pretty quickly in a simple court marriage. We didn't want a big wedding, and we're all doing just fine. Some of you asked how my brother knew my address. Well, he actually didn't. He only knew my email and my work email. He probably figured out which company I work for, and from there, he tracked down my email and sent an invitation. A few days ago, I received another email from my brother. I had forgotten to block him, so it got through. Usually, I don't check my work email much since most things are forwarded in Slack. In the email, my brother poured his heart out. He acknowledged that he knows I won't come to his wedding, but he still wanted me there on his big day. He apologized for what he did and admitted he'd never forgive himself for his actions. He knew he shouldn't have slept with Melissa, but he did it anyway. Growing up, he had always been jealous of me. He envied that I was the more capable brother, always looking after him like a babysitter. When Melissa approached him, he felt like he finally had some importance. Deep down, he knew he was in the wrong, and he wanted to stop. When I told him he was dead to me, it triggered a panic attack in him. He desperately tried to contact me, but my friends wouldn't reveal my location. They stood by my side and refused to be part of his wedding with Melissa, as they also saw me as a big brother figure. Even his own friends judged him harshly for what he had done. His life hit rock bottom when he heard from one of his friends that I had attempted to end my life. 2 years ago, Melissa and my brother made up. At that time, she was a single mom and felt guilty about her past actions because her child's father had cheated on her and left. She wanted to apologize to me, and that's how they rekindled their romance. However, things didn't go well, and my brother eventually called off the wedding and broke up with Melissa again. He still wants me to be there for his big day, even though I've disowned him. He's willing to do whatever it takes to reconcile, even if it takes a lifetime. That's pretty much the gist of it. There was a lot of emotional stuff in the email, but I chose to ignore it and deleted it. My therapist told me that forgiveness should come naturally from the subconscious when we genuinely feel we can forgive someone. It should only be an option if the person shows remorse through their actions, not just their words. Honestly, I don't want to forgive him. I know it may seem petty and cruel, but I'm happy with my life the way it is. Adding him to my life will just bring stress. My wife advised me to let it go and not hold him responsible at all. I fear that if I forgive him, he'll go right back to Melissa. He needs to sort out his own life and be an adult now. I've coddled him enough. It's time for him to take responsibility. People keep asking me about my brother's life, so I want to clear things up. Honestly, I have no clue what he's been up to. I deliberately moved far away from him and even changed jobs to create distance. He must have found out my workplace from where he sent the email. For a whole decade, I acted like he didn't exist, and therapy helped me cope with it. I treated him as if he were already dead. I'm not sure what happened between him and Melissa, but from his email, I can piece together that they dated for a few years and broke up. His friends didn't approve of him being with her, so they canceled the wedding because of Melissa. My brother mentioned he doesn't want to get married unless I'm there to support him, but honestly, it doesn't have to be Melissa. Anyone could fill that role. I don't know why Melissa came back, but she must have thought I would just accept her like a doormat. She should know me better than that. When it comes to holding a grudge, I admit I'm quite stubborn. I had no idea that my actions would have such an impact on my brother's friends. They were genuinely good people who used to hang out with us. Even though they were younger, they treated me like a brother. After I cut off contact with my brother, 2 of his friends, who never had a positive male role model, apologized to me. But I haven't stayed in touch with them. If he truly regretted what he did, he wouldn't have chosen to marry Melissa, the woman who played a big part in ruining my life along with my brother. Did he really think I would forget all the pain and trauma they caused me? Forgiveness doesn't set you free. It just creates another trap. Over the years, I've learned that forgiveness is a tool used by cowards who want to escape the consequences of their wrongdoings. They believe that by receiving forgiveness, The guilt they carry will magically disappear. But true forgiveness can never be forced, it has to be earned, and he hasn't done anything to earn it. Second story. Let me give you some background first. We've been together for a solid 6 years, and our lives are deeply connected. Before meeting my future wife, I only had one other serious girlfriend. We dated for 3 years, got married, and it's been about 2.5 years since we tied the knot. Like any long-term couple, we've had our ups and downs, fights, and romantic moments. Lately, things have been a bit tougher, but life is stressful. Due to financial reasons, we had to move in with her mother, and surprisingly, it's working for all of us. Recently, she's been spending a lot of time with one of our mutual friends. She hangs out with him quite frequently, especially when I'm busy with work. They do regular stuff like watching TV, having drinks, going to the beach, and so on. The visits have become much more frequent in the last few months, happening at least once a week, if not more. Lately, my friend has been avoiding me and not willing to hang out when I'm around. This made me more suspicious with each meeting. Last Friday, after a separate argument with my intoxicated wife, I had a strong urge to check her phone. This was unusual for me since I normally respect her privacy. But my suspicions got the best of me, and I gave in to the temptation. I looked at her text messages with the guy in question. What I discovered crushed me. The messages were explicit and detailed, going back at least 2 months. It made me feel sick to my stomach, and I became dizzy and pale as I read them. The messages referred to his tool in her mouth, with her mentioning how he makes her insatiable. I was in shock. It was hard to comprehend. My thoughts were all over the place. In just a few minutes, I experienced a flood of emotions I had never felt before. Disgust, betrayal, anger, regret, fear, and profound sadness. How could my beloved wife do this to me? I couldn't shake the image of her with that jerk, someone who had been my friend long before I even met her. How could he betray our friendship like that? In that moment, I even thought about resorting to extreme measures. I felt utterly shattered, crying uncontrollably beside my drunken wife. I can't forgive her. I made up my mind then and there that this is unforgivable. I need to leave and be on my own. The problem is, I don't have any money saved up and I don't have my own car. I hardly own anything at all. I decided not to confront her about knowing yet, so I can prepare myself for living alone. With the help of a few supportive friends, I managed to find a new place to move into. I also have another friend who's selling me their car. I'm getting my ducks in a row to drop a bomb on this cheating witch and get away. As it stands now, my plan is to pack and move all my belongings while she's at work tomorrow. I'll have to pick her up from work later in the day. When she gets home and sees all my stuff gone, the final argument will begin. I don't know exactly what I'll say, but I have a lot to express, and the words will come naturally. Edit. The issue I have here is that I'll need to use her car to move my stuff on Friday, so I'm considering a new plan. I'll write a concise but impactful note, more than just, I know, but not too lengthy. Leave it along with the car and keys at her workplace, and then a friend will pick me up so we can leave without a trace. This way, she'll read the note, be devastated, and return home to find all my belongings gone and no sign of me. I'm already preparing to hire a lawyer. I believe I have enough evidence, and I've familiarized myself with divorce laws in Maryland to cover my bases. Fortunately, we don't have significant assets, communal property, or children, which I'm thankful for. Update. As for Friday, it went as well as it could in a situation like this. I took the advice I received from Reddit and changed my plan before the day even began. There was no final argument. Despite learning the devastating news, our last week together went surprisingly well. We went to the beach early in the week and had an incredible closeness on Wednesday night. On Thursday, we had a fancy dinner, she paid for it, and then went to the movies, also her treat. Friday morning she seemed really happy, and we had a great closeness. I dropped her off at work, gave her a sincere hug, and said goodbye. Little did I know it would be our last conversation. Right away, I went to get the keys to my new place and some boxes for packing. I hurried home to start packing my things. My brother-in-law was home at the time, so I pulled him aside and shared the news. He was furious at his sister and completely supportive of me. We had a heartfelt conversation, and he was there for me as I packed. He was an amazing brother, and I made sure to let him know how much I appreciated his support. We cried and talked for a while, and he did everything he could to help me. Sadly, most of my belongings fit into just one carload in a small hatchback. After unloading the first trip, it was almost time for my friend with a truck to finish work. I went back to my old place, and my mother-in-law was there now. We had a long conversation, and she offered her support. While she didn't take sides, she understood my decision and was very encouraging. She assured me that I could count on her for help any time, and that I was still considered family to her. We talked and cried together for a while, although she hoped we could work things out. I explained that I could never forgive her daughter, and she respected my choice. I left my wife's car at the house and asked my mother-in-law to pick her up after work. Throughout the day, my wife was going crazy because I was ignoring her. She tried to reach me multiple times, called and sent countless messages, but I ignored them all. She even started calling my friends and family, worried that something had happened to me. When they spoke to me, I asked them to tell her that they couldn't get a hold of me either. I initially planned to leave a note at home, but I got caught up in emotions while talking to her mother-in-law and completely forgot. I might be seen as weak, but eventually I did send her a message saying, "I'm not going to discuss this right now, and I'll continue to ignore your texts. There's nothing you can say to me at this moment. I hope you're happy with him, and I hope it was worth it. I can never forgive you." Of course, after that, she sent me a few messages, begging and apologizing. She admitted what she did, said she felt like the worst person in the world, and claimed that I am the love of her life and the only one she wants. She even had the nerve to mention, "We broke it off almost 2 weeks ago," as if that's supposed to make me feel better. I haven't responded to anything else she said. Now, let's fast forward to my new place. Unpacking and settling in has been great for my morale. I'm in high spirits, feeling optimistic and alive. I'm moving in with my longest-known friend, who's been there for me since I first moved to Maryland over 10 years ago. Spending time with close friends, having good conversations, and enjoying nature is helping me heal. With this second chance at independence, I plan to take a step back, reflect on my life, and work on improving myself and finding happiness within. I want to shed a few pounds, focus on enhancing my musical abilities. I play guitar, bass, drums, and dabble in electronic music. And most importantly, go out and experience the world and the people in it. Traveling a bit, meeting new people, and exploring new places are some of my goals. Despite the terrible situation I'm going through, I feel revitalized and full of energy. Update. I haven't shared an update because I don't think it would be as exciting as the divorce story. Life is unpredictable and doesn't always go as planned. But in general, things have been going well. I'm enjoying my independent life, and I even have a new female friend. I'm still waiting for a year of separation to finalize the divorce. Third story. Just to give you some background, we were married for 16 years and together for 20. We have 4 kids, aged 24, 17, 10, and 7. I found out about her affair with a co-worker after hacking her phone and seeing their messages. The divorce was finalized in December. In December, I learned she was seeing the affair partner right after moving out through a text meant for him, but sent to me. Overall, our divorce has been very friendly. I got to keep the house, my car, Harley, and business. She only asked for child support, nothing more. We're still good friends, but she lies to me a lot, so I'm cautious about what she tells me. We're doing a great job co-parenting our kids. The issue is that my ex decided to work extra hours today and asked if I could take care of our 7 and 10-year-old boys. I had no problem with that. But as soon as we got in the car, my 7-year-old started bombarding me with questions about mom's new friend. Apparently, the AP and his 12-year-old son stayed over at my ex's place last Friday. The AP apparently slept in bed with my ex. The AP's 12-year-old son had a sleepover with my 7-year-old and told him, "My dad and your mom are boyfriend and girlfriend," which left my son feeling confused. He was also told that the AP's dad might become his new dad. And to top it off, my son asked why this guy was sleeping in bed with his mom. On Saturday, they spent the day shopping at the trampoline park, having lunch, and acting like a family. I was totally blindsided by all of this, and it's clear my ex didn't have a conversation with our son about it. This was the first time my son met these people. I don't think it's fair that I have to clean up my ex's mess, and I find it highly inappropriate for the AP to sleep in her bed. We're not fully divorced yet, and neither is the AP. How should I handle this situation? My son is confused, and I don't think I should have to cover for his mother's bad decisions. Several months later, my ex called me crying and asked if I could take the kids overnight again. I was concerned and asked what was wrong. She replied that karma hit me hard. She explained that something felt off, so she decided to check her affair partner's phone while he was in the shower. To her shock, she found a long string of messages on Facebook with texting, pictures, and explicit conversations, the same way I had discovered her affair. My ex is 39, her affair partner is 52, and his new affair partner is married and just 28. Now don't get me wrong, part of me wanted to rejoice because it finally happened to her. I had warned her from day one that the guy was a predator. However, after listening to her, I realized she was deeply in love with him, and another part of me felt sorry for her. Interestingly, she apologized to me more that day than she ever did about cheating on me. She said things like, "I am so sorry I put you through this," and "I never realized how much this hurt you." I took her apologies with a grain of salt, because I've moved on and found someone else. We've been happily dating for the last 6 months. The main point of this post is to let everyone know that even in the toughest divorce situations, things can work out, and sometimes karma will step in and bring a small piece of retribution. 2 years later, there was nearly a second cheating incident with the affair partner, but my ex caught him before they could meet up. She has complete control over his phone, monitoring all his apps and constantly checking his messages. Sounds like a living nightmare to me. My ex and the AP are still kind of together, but it's a really strange on-off situation. Let me explain. According to her, they're not together, and both of their Facebook pages say they're single. However, she still occasionally wears his engagement ring, just like how she refused to return my $12,000 wedding ring. Ha! She stays at his apartment now and then, but claims they're just friends. Yeah, right. Who stays over at their ex's place, sleeps in their bed, and calls it just hanging out. It's amusing how she thinks everyone is naive enough to believe that. In the meantime, she had to change jobs because she was really close friends with the plant manager there. They were always talking, going to lunch together, riding Harleys, taking walks on breaks and all that. Rumors started swirling around, and things got messy at work. Her work friend is a married guy with 3 kids, but he still visits her place occasionally and takes her out on Harley rides, to the movies, or whatever they do. Apparently, our teenage son caught them kissing in the driveway, and he didn't know who the guy was. So he called me to ask, and I played dumb, telling him to ask his mother who that was. He got the impression that she and the AP were still together, because the guy was over the day before, grilling out and mowing her lawn. Then, there's another new guy on the scene. She won't say how or where she met him, but they went on 2 dates and she didn't seem too interested in him. It turns out they knew each other from a previous job, and he kept talking about how he wanted to be with all her friends and coworkers from back in the day. The other day we were discussing retirement. I told her about my plan to semi-retire in 6 years, once child support ends and all the kids turn 18. My idea is to move to a warmer climate down south. She started with a sob story, saying she had to raise all our children while I built the business, and she'll probably have to work until she dies and will never get to retire. But that's far from the truth. I put in just as much time, housework, and effort into our family as she did. There were even a few years when I did even more than her, while she was out partying with her friends 4 or 5 nights a week. In response to her, I said, "You made your choice to leave me and go with your AP." It was amazing to see the expression on her face. I used to be her retirement plan, but now she only has $14,000 in her 401k, and she's in her early 40s. Even if she stays with her AP or goes back to him, he doesn't have much money saved up for retirement or any significant savings at all. So there's some karma in that. Here's some advice for those of you going through a divorce or about to go through one. My life was completely shattered from October 2018 to December 2019, when our divorce was finalized. But fast forward a few years to now, and I've never been happier. I'm planning to retire early and enjoy some beach time. My relationship with my kids is stronger and better than ever. When things seem dark and terrible, be a good person. Don't lie or deceive. Avoid being malicious, and don't involve the kids in any conflicts between you and your ex-partner. Keep your head up and keep moving forward. The further you walk away from the darkness, the better your life will become. Fourth story. I, 40F, have been silently observing on Reddit for a long time, never sharing my story. It's a typical Reddit tale you might come across, but I feel the need to let it out to the world. Thank goodness for Reddit. So let me tell you about my sister, 43F, whom I'll call Ursula. Yes, like the villain. She's always made my life a living hell. Ursula is incredibly manipulative and a narcissist. She acts nice to me when she needs something, but then completely ignores me afterwards. When we were growing up, I thought we were close as sisters. We didn't have the usual fights that make sisters jealous of each other. Now, looking back as an adult, I believe she actually hated me. She used to give me backhanded compliments like, "Your face looks better with your glasses," or "You have a boy crush. I thought you were a lesbian. I used to be a tomboy." I always tried to be like her and be everyone's favorite, thinking she was helpful and kind. Or at least, that's what she wanted us to believe. She always made me feel insecure about my looks and the people I dated. When I was 17, I had my first boyfriend, and she made me believe he wasn't right for me, and so on. I ended up breaking up with him, my mistake. Later, I moved out of state for college, studying engineering while she went to business school. Yet, whenever I returned home for holidays, she would still give me those backhanded compliments. At 21, I started dating my ex-husband Jordan. Thankfully, at that time, my sister was focused on someone else, so her attention wasn't on Jordan. He also wasn't her type. We dated for 3 years and got married. For 4 years my life was happy. But during that time, my sister announced she was pregnant. We all assumed it was from her then boyfriend Remy. One day I visited my sister with some food for her pregnancy. She gave me permission to enter her place and handed me a key. As I went inside without knocking, I was surprised to find Jordan's shoes outside. Feeling suspicious, I entered her bedroom, and as you might have guessed, they were without clothes and had closeness. To keep it short, I divorced Jordan. I was in a lot of pain and devastated. My parents supported me, but they seemed to shift their focus more towards my sister and Jordan. Yes, she was pregnant with his child, and it hurt to see them together. Neither of them ever apologized. They just shrugged it off as, "Shit happens." To get away from the situation, I moved away from home 8 years ago when I got a work contract in England. It was a fresh start for me there. I met Peter, a single dad, and we fell in love, got married, and now have a son together. I don't have any contact with my sister. I rarely talk to my dad, but he keeps me updated. Recently, I found out that Jordan and Ursula got married and had 2 more kids. That's pretty much all I knew about them until now. Turns out Jordan cheated on Ursula, and they're going through a nasty fight. To make things worse, 2 of their kids aren't even Jordan's, so Ursula hasn't been faithful at all. My dad said it's a complete mess, and they'll probably end up getting divorced, but she's pushing for alimony. I hung up the phone and poured myself a drink. Honestly, I'm glad I'm thousands of miles away from all that drama. My mom called me too, saying she needs me, but I'm not sure if I want to go or not. As much as I might enjoy seeing Ursula's life falling apart, I'm not sure if I want to get involved in all that drama. Edit. Since people seem curious and want all the details, I thought I'd add more information. My sister cheated on Remy, who was a really nice guy. He was devastated when he found out that my sister's child wasn't his, but actually Jordan's. Afterward, Remy moved on and found a wonderful wife. I still follow him on Instagram. My parents were angry at Ursula, but she's a manipulative person and convinced everyone that Jordan forced her into having closeness with him, threatening to divorce me if she didn't comply. She made it seem like she was saving my marriage by sleeping with my husband. How typical. I got married in London, but my relatives couldn't come due to the long distance. However, my father was able to attend. Unfortunately, my mother couldn't come because she was recovering from back surgery at that time. Some people wrongly believe that my parents were bad, but that's not true. They were just regular human beings. I understand they were in a tough situation having to choose between 2 kids. Besides, they were becoming grandparents and couldn't abandon my sister. Even though she's difficult, they didn't let her get away with everything. They supported me during my divorce and paid for my therapy after it. They couldn't completely cut off Ursula because she was pregnant. My dad and mom have a strained relationship with her and Jordan, but they haven't disowned them because of their kids. My dad even refused to walk Ursula down the aisle at her wedding, which I didn't attend. However, I kept in touch with my parents after I moved to England, and they were supportive of me. My mom couldn't come to my wedding due to her back surgery, as she's in her 60s and has various health issues. My dad attended the wedding. Later, my mom managed to visit me after my honeymoon, but she was devastated that she couldn't meet my son due to flight difficulties. I'm now going back to my hometown for some business, and I would have gone regardless of the phone call. It's been 4 years since I last saw my mom and dad, and I miss them. Despite my feelings towards my sister, I don't hate my parents. I may have given the wrong impression of my parents. They are not bad people, and they do love both of their kids. I don't believe they sidelined me. My dad and Ursula's relationship is still strained, but he's only involved because of the grandkids. My mom is the same way. I never asked them to cut off Ursula because she needed them, but I kept my distance from her. They still don't like Jordan and Ursula. My dad even refused to walk her down the aisle when she married Jordan. I distanced myself for my own reasons. I got a job in the UK and traveled around Europe, something I always wanted to do. Now, I'm settled in my life with my 4-year-old son, husband, and stepdaughter. My mom and dad still keep in touch with me. Unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to meet my mom in 3 years because of COVID and other issues. Now I might have to visit my hometown because of a project, and I also miss them. I don't blame my mom for not attending my wedding. She had a surgery, and it was difficult for her to move. She was present on video chat during the whole ceremony. It's been 4 years since we've seen each other, and I believe she misses me a lot. I miss her too. Update. So I arrived in my home country with my husband and son. My mom and dad picked us up from the airport, and it was wonderful to see them after so many years. They looked tired and pale, as if they haven't eaten or slept well for a long time. My mom was especially happy to meet my husband and son since she hadn't met them before. I asked them not to tell my sister that I'm here, as I'll only be staying for a few weeks before leaving. Right now, I'm staying with my aunt. As for my sister, my mom told me she's living with her and her kids. I learned some things about my sister. She was having an affair with her former married boss, and it turns out the 2 kids she has are actually his. The boss's wife found out and confronted my sister, resulting in a physical altercation. Interestingly, the company where the boss works is owned by his father-in-law. Yeah, her boss is going to lose his job because of the affair. My sister had already switched jobs before all this drama unfolded, but she continued the affair. Now, because of the whole situation, she's at risk of losing her new job too, as the company's owner is friends with the boss's wife. It's like she's gotten herself into a difficult situation she can't escape from. Jordan has also quit his job because he refuses to pay my sister alimony and child support for the kids that aren't his. He's planning to sue the boss for child support for those kids. They are constantly fighting, and my mom says it's taking a toll on Jordan's mental state. On top of that, he was also having an affair with his co-worker. My mom wants to kick my sister out, but she can't because of her kids. She may hate my sister, but she doesn't want to punish the innocent kids. I can't help but feel sorry for those children too. They don't deserve to be caught in the middle of such a messy situation with their parents. I want to make it clear that my parents are not bad people. They have been very supportive of me. The only reason they continue to have contact with my sister Ursula is because of her kids. I feel sorry for my mom because she doesn't have much time left, and with her illness, she may not have the strength to handle all this drama. I know my sister will somehow find out that I am here, but I am ready for that. I don't want to see her because I know she'll pull me into her mess, but I plan to enjoy the few weeks I have with my husband and child. Hello everyone. I'm currently in a difficult situation and I'm unsure if I'm making the right decisions. By the way, this is my first post here, so please forgive me if I miss any details. Feel free to ask for more information. Let me share my current situation. I'm a 25-year-old male and I've been in a relationship with my wife, who is 27 years old, for 8.5 years. Last August, during our trip to the USA, I proposed to her. We legally got married 10 weeks ago, had a church ceremony 5 weeks ago, and went on our honeymoon 2 weeks after that. During our honeymoon, I noticed something unusual for the first time. She was constantly texting on her phone and tried to hide it or turn off the display whenever I glanced at it to see who she was talking to. When I asked, she claimed she was texting her friends or her sister. This made me suspicious, and in the beginning of the second week, I decided to check her phone while she was asleep. It was the first time I had ever felt the need to do this because I had always trusted her. To my shock, I discovered that the woman I believed loved me the one I had married just a month prior, was cheating on me with someone else, a 39-year-old man. He works as a cook where she is employed, so they see each other daily during the week. We still had to stay together for the rest of the week and our flight home during our honeymoon, so I didn't confront her about it at that time because I didn't want to have a fight while on our honeymoon. I have no idea how I managed to hold it in. After further investigation when we returned home, I found out that their relationship had begun at the end of November last year, which was after our engagement but well before our wedding. I don't understand why she didn't mention this to me earlier when we had plenty of time to cancel our wedding. Somehow, I didn't catch on until it was too late. I haven't talked to my wife about this yet, so she doesn't know that I'm aware of her affair. However, I think she might suspect that I'm suspicious of something. We still have tasks left, like selecting our wedding photos for the album and writing thank you letters for the gifts we received, which is why I haven't brought up this issue until now. But I'm feeling really tormented inside, and I need to address this situation. I'm currently looking into whether I can legally remove her from our house. We rented it together and both our names are on the contract, and whether our wedding can be annulled or if I need to go through a divorce process. Here's an important detail. The other guy is separated from his wife and has 2 teenage children. He's not getting a divorce right now because they have some outstanding loans to repay. Additionally, they frequently express their love for each other and a desire to be together fully, but they can't do so at the moment. From what I know, their plan involves my wife having children with me, since the other guy already has some, and then, when he's ready, either divorced or otherwise, they will pursue a relationship together. My dilemma is that I feel guilty for contemplating divorce less than 2 months after our wedding, especially after the big celebration and all the gifts we received. However, I can't continue living like this. I'm not sure what I'm expecting from you all, maybe just confirmation that I'm making the right choice by leaving her and seeking a divorce. Thank you for any advice or insights you can provide. Best regards. Update. I'm planning to speak with our office lawyer today to see if they have any information on this matter. If they don't, I'll contact a specific lawyer to get some advice on how to proceed. Regarding our financial situation, neither of us is wealthy. We're both doing okay. If she worked full